Okay, so. My nose, hold on. Itchiness of the nose. We're going to get to the topic at hand, but before we get to the topic at hand, all right, I just want to say thank you to everyone. I appreciate you all. We're going to now get into the topic everyone's been wanting to hear. I believe Ponich says, why don't you do shout outs before we get to the topic? Literally, I have one tip so far. That's it. There's nothing really to shout out. So I think we will get into the topic now that everyone wants to hear about. All right. And then we'll get to shout outs and Q&A after that. All right. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, here's the deal. Because the rumors have already hit the internet. There's already rumblings. There's already information out there. So I am here to basically clarify everything, to clear the air, and to let you know exactly what is going on. All right? Last year was a very drama-filled, nonsensical year for me, against my will and against my wishes, correct? I think we can all agree. Last year, there was a lot of very negative talk about me on the internet, in some cases from really big YouTubers, right? Now, in some cases, being very transparent here, when I got criticized by Moist Critical, and he was like, dude, I can't believe he's saying the things he's saying on his streams to his viewers about income and stuff like that. It seems very, disrespectful. He doesn't seem like he has any gratitude. You can't say that kind of stuff. That resonated with me. It struck a chord, correct? And I agreed with him after watching myself back. This is from like the fall of 2022, okay? After watching myself back, that stuff, I was like, he's right. He's absolutely right. I sometimes get so full of emotion, whether it's fear, because of finances and stuff like that, or it could be many different things. Anger when I'm playing Street Fighters, all these things. Whenever I get full of emotion, I tend to just go off the cuff and say things that I probably should not publicly say, right? And I should be called out for it, rightfully. However, I felt that at that point, there were too many people who had only heard the negative and had no idea about the positive about me. Obviously, if I'm here after 15 years and I have a community who watches me every day, likes my content and supports it, I'm doing something right, all right? I wouldn't still be here if I wasn't doing something right. There's people who are here for a good, positive reason. And I felt like it wasn't fair because these big YouTubers who always name drop me never examined that half of it. They only examine the negative because that's what gets thrown in their face by the toxicity of YouTube. That's how YouTube works. Promote the toxic, push the negative forward, right? And so I said, if you're going to talk bad about me, why not interview me? Correct? Like, why not just talk to me directly? Because I felt like if someone would just have a conversation with me to see that I'm a real guy, I'm not just some asshole who you see the negative highlights of, but I'm actually just a real person, perhaps you'd think a little differently, all right? So I presented that to the internet, and basically the only people who contacted me were drama brokers and people who were looking to boost their own presence on YouTube. It wasn't like a Moist Critical who reached out to me and said, yeah, let's do an interview. It was like Review Tech USA, oh, let's do an interview. No, you already every day name drop me because you don't make your own content. You just make drama. And you name drop me for drama purposes. You have no content of your own. I'm not going to give you more free content. You're out of your mind, you see. I wanted to have a real conversation with someone, and it didn't happen, right? So then fast forward to March. And what happened was completely unrelated to anything in that realm of discussion, okay? Sidescrollers was a new podcast that was relaunching on the internet. It was a podcast that was run by Stuttering Craig, someone who in the past, over a decade ago, I had great dealings with. I would go to a convention as a guest when I was at the height of my YouTube popularity, and it was his convention. He had me there as a guest. Before then, I'd actually hung out with this guy at another convention, MagFest. I was a fan of their website 15 years ago, screwtack.com and stuff like that. So he had reached out to me and said, hey, I know we haven't talked in years, but we're looking for guests for our show. And I said, I'll be a guest, why not? And I saw their show, and their show is a variety show. Well, their show was a variety show where they would talk about games and news. Now it's not anymore. Now they've actually used my interview as a platform to change their show and get popularity, but we'll talk about that later. So basically, I say, I'll be a guest on your show, but then they completely changed the deal. The deal was originally, I'm just going to be a guest. We'll talk about a variety of topics. It'll be a fun show. Then it becomes, well, what we want to do is we want to be the exclusive place for you to finally get that interview that you've always wanted. But I didn't really always want an interview. I only wanted the interview because people were talking so negatively about me, right? So I was promised that this was going to be a fair interview where I was going to be able to say my piece about all this stuff that people say about me over the years. And then after the interview, basically, I was going to get to be a guest on the show. That I needed to get through this interview first, but once I did, I could be a guest, and it would be just like everyone else who'd been on the show. At that point, for over a month, people had been guests on the show. No one else had to go through an interview, just me, okay? So I do this interview, okay? I get paid nothing for this interview, for the record. It's just me giving them over 5 hours of my time. Come to find out, was this a fair interview? No. All they had done was talk to all of my haters and detractors for like weeks. Got all of their negative side of the story, literally never spoke to a single person about the positive side of things. All they did was research negative shit about me. And so they went into the interview with the mindset that they wanted to get me to confess to all these heinous things that I had done over the years. Wow, that's a great way to approach an interview, isn't it? They lied and told everyone that the next day after the interview, they were going to have a decompression show where they play games, and then they were going to have a follow-up interview with me later. None of that happened after the interview. Instead, they did a hit piece on me. Basically, for a whole day, they just crapped on me and made all negative references and took in a ton of money, thousands of dollars they received from my detractors and haters. Not only that day, but they continued to milk this for weeks on end and months. It was months later. Stuttering Craig was trying to get me on the show or get onto my content. He wanted to play Street Fighter 6 with me. This guy would not stop. Basically, he saw me as a big cash cow, and he wanted to keep riding those coattails. Now, since that show, all right, they have basically gotten some notoriety in the conservative political community, which is hilarious because when they started the show, they always said there was not going to be about politics. Now, the only attention they get is when they talk about politics, and they've turned it into a right-wing political show. That's their show now. All bolstered by when I was on it. And by the way, my interview continues to be the most watched thing they've ever done. The funny part about it is the interview never actually did anything in the realm of what I wanted. The whole point of the interview that I wanted to do was that people who don't know about me can watch the interview, learn, and then there's no questions anymore about that stuff. In the end, all that interview ever did was it went around my detractor circles. That's it. It didn't actually hit mainstream. No one really cared about that interview outside of the detractors. So it didn't really get to serve the purpose, but I'll say this, at the very least, basically all the bullshit about those negative things, those questions, those accusations, the conspiracies, it all went away. If you don't notice, no one really comes on my stream and talks about it anymore because I've already said my piece and I'm not wasting time anymore with that shit. I'm done with it. I told you guys, I'm done with those topics. We're done with it, right? So, after that, I made it my philosophy to stay out of drama. And I said, I'm not going to be doing any interviews. I'm not going to be doing any kind of anything with anyone. Even though people did reach out to me, oh, I want to interview Phil and this or that. Even, what's his name? Mudahar or whatever. He reached out to me. Oh, I'm going to pay you $5,000 for an interview. And I said, I don't want your money. I'll do an interview, but we're not talking about this drama. I've already addressed it. All the conspiracies are just that. I'm not wasting my time. If you want to have an intelligent discussion about interesting topics, I'll do it. The moment you bring up drama, I'm gone. And then he ghosted me and never contacted me ever again. Because all these people want is drama. They don't actually want to talk about facts like fucking mature adults. All they want is milk drama so they can make money on YouTube. They're all fucking greedy. So anyway, I stayed out of it. Completely, 100%. And I didn't address any more of this bullshit for the rest of 2023. And things went smoothly. However, there were still people who tried to pull me in, right? These idiots trying to get me to go on a fucking podcast that I was never involved in whatsoever, and they lied about that and tried to make shit up and talking shit about me. People making documentaries about me, right? Which is hilarious. The whole term documentary is hilarious because if all you do is research shit that's already on the internet and you regurgitate it into a 2-hour video and all you do is add a little bit of commentary, that's not a documentary. Everyone else did work for you. All you did was regurgitate the toxicity and the conspiracy. You added really nothing besides a little bit of commentary on top. That's not a documentary. It doesn't even add anything. All it does is kind of summarize all the negative shit people have said. So, with all that going on, right? People come, oh, will you do an interview with the guy who did the documentary and this or that? And ultimately I said, no, I'm not doing any of that, right? I'm staying out. And the funny part is, someone actually asked me a question last year, and it resonated with me. They said, you know, Phil, all these people on the internet are constantly talking negatively about you. Any of these people, do they ever actually like reach out to you to talk to you, right? Did they ever go to you for information or to get your side of the story or whatever? And I answered very honestly, no, not once. In all this time, 15 years I've been on YouTube and all the negative videos and the documentaries and everything done, not once has anyone ever made a legit effort to get my actual side of anything. Instead, it's always we believe all the toxic shit and just report the toxic shit and that's it. Even the Sidescrollers interview, which at first seemed like it was going to be neutral, was revealed to be an actual attempt to get me to basically fess up to shit I didn't do for their own purposes. They wanted to be the group to, oh my God, look, we did it. We got Dark Side Phil to spill the beans on everything and now we can be notable because of it, and it didn't work. Because it's not, the shit they were trying to get me to do wasn't true to begin with, so obviously it never was going to work. These people were fucked up, all right? So basically, I stayed out of all of this all year. But, all right, always in the back of my head, I'm always wondering, and I've told you guys this too, I don't think anyone's ever going to give me a fair shake on the internet. I just don't believe it. It seems like everyone is out for the drama. Everyone's out for personal gain. What's better? To completely spin something in a way that makes me look horrible for clickbait views that will benefit you, or to actually show me in a fair light. I'm not even saying show me in a positive light. I'm saying show me in a fair light to actually have another side of the story, to see what it's actually like from my perspective, to go through this, to live through all of this slander and nonsense that's happened to me for all these years, to just be a guy trying to get by with my community and having a good time and ignoring all the bullshit, and then having to hear that constantly this stuff is going on outside, right? So, basically, all right, I got contacted by someone who is a neutral party. Someone who does not stand to benefit by actually portraying me in an incredibly negative way, because it basically, let me put it this way. If you're someone who wants to actually make real content, if you're not someone who's a drama hound, if you're not someone who is, again, a Keemstar, a review tech, someone who all of your content is based on making someone look bad, correct? If you're someone who actually wants to make legit content, then you actually have to be fair. Because the moment that you're not, who else would ever want to work with you again, right? If you portray someone in an unfair way that makes them look awful, then no one else is ever going to want to work with you either. You understand? It has to be some way where you're actually being fair to the subject matter. All right? So, basically, I was contacted by Mike Clum, who recently did a documentary on Boogie. And before everyone freaks out about this, because I know a lot of people saw the Boogie documentary and were like, wow, that documentary was not positive. That documentary was very negative. It shows all the weaknesses of Boogie, all his shortcomings, the fact that he basically pissed his life away, all his money away, that he's a toxic guy who falls into drama and he has all these issues. You're right. But that's what they wanted to do with that documentary, you understand? That's actually what they wanted to portray in that documentary. That was the whole point. To show that side of his life, which I guess they felt had never been really revealed before. That's exactly what they were going for, okay? I was contacted by Mike, and he says, basically, this is fascinating. There's people out there who want to see a documentary about you, but he didn't know that much about me, okay? So, by the way, and just for the record, this was months ago. This was not yesterday. This was months ago, okay, where we actually began talking behind the scenes about stuff like this. And basically, through a series of conversations, okay, that I had with this guy, as I explained my story to him, he was basically like, so this is completely different from Boogie. Yeah, it's not even close. My life is nothing like his. I'm not in the situation he's in. You know, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, and other people can disagree, I feel like in my position is a much better position than his. You know what I mean? Like him, he's in horrible health. Financially, he's distraught. He can't make ends meet. He's desperate, which is why he's on things like this lolcow show where he's getting on his hands and knees and being mistreated by Keemstar to make money. He's in a real desperate way, right? That's very much not the case, okay, with me. I have a successful business. I enjoy coming to stream with you guys every day. I love what I do for a living. I'm making it happen, right? I'm getting out of a horrible financial position in my life, which happened already, and I'm climbing out of it. It's slow progress, but it's definitely progress, right? My story is basically that even though I've made all of these improvements over the years, and I am not representative of what people make me out to be anymore. Maybe one day, 10, 15 years ago, I was really bad. I was obstinate, I was stubborn, I was stupid, I said and did awful things, right? And I got away with it, basically. And now here we are 15 years later, and I'm still able to run a business, albeit a much smaller scale business than what I used to do. But I'm still popular, I still have a fan base, and people still talk about me, right? The problem is constant misrepresentation. And you might say, well, I don't get it because you already have addressed everything. You're right. I have addressed all of the bullshit and nonsense out there. However, I addressed it here, right? And no one listens to me when I say it on my own content. No one. This is me talking to my audience who already, it's like, what do they call it? You're preaching to the choir. You guys already know the deal, right? The fact is, most people don't. There's no central place you can go on the internet for the story of Darkside Phil. It's this detractor content, this documentary that's way outdated and has outdated information, this documentary that just regurgitates the detractor conspiracy theories. There's literally nowhere you can go to say, I want to learn about Darkside Phil. Why does everyone talk about this guy? I don't get it. And get an actual answer that's fair and makes sense. Okay? And so, after having talked to Mike, all right, the idea that we came up with was to do a documentary that's going to, for the first time ever, and I'm going to say this, likely for the last time ever, cover my actual real story. Me growing up, what it was like, right? How I got into games, you know? What it was like when I was a kid. Asked my parents, you know, what was it like raising Phil and stuff like that, right? Going through the arcade days, going through the Street Fighter days, growing up in arcades, and how it became this kind of, how do they say, almost fraternity culture, and shit talking was encouraged, right? And how that carried into my competitive Street Fighter career in the 2000s, and how it became an innate part of who I was for a very long time. How eventually, after having a back injury and deciding to quit competitive Street Fighter, how that turned into a job becoming a YouTuber, right? And how I somehow got this popularity doing content on YouTube that not very many people were doing, right? The improv commentary style, and basically making it popular, right? I was the innovator of the video game playthrough back in the day. I was. But most people won't give me credit for that because they wanted, oh, it was this person or this person. I was the person who made it mainstream popular on YouTube. And then everyone else decided to run with it and change it up and do it differently. But I was the guy who made that improv commentary style popular. All right? Then after that, you know, the entire story of how I became popular for a 2 or 3 year period. I was one of the top YouTubers. But then how this is how you don't play soured public opinion against me. How it turned the crowd against me and how that affected me. How these groups of detractors formed online social communities around hating on me, and how it changed everything, how they staged attacks against me to ruin the business, and how I went on a big decline as a result of stagnation and bad choices on my part, but just as much their actions as well. And basically doing all of that in a way that, number one, covers facts, but also is entertaining. Because ultimately, the last thing you want to do is have a documentary about someone that's boring, okay? That Boogie documentary is sad. I don't want to make a documentary about me that's sad. What's the point? I don't want people crying and having a sob story about Darkside Phil. My life is not a sob story. It's interesting. People have said, would you ever write an autobiography or whatever? Maybe one day I would, but I never really thought about that. And then when I start talking to Mike, he's like, no, your story is interesting. The more I hear, the more I'm hooked. I want to hear more things about you, you know, about how this journey happened or whatever. This is not a a crying situation about how awful things are. My life is not awful, right? But it stands to reason that to actually have a fair documentary about me that covers everything, my whole history, not just the bullshit conspiracies and negative shit about me. Not to say that stuff won't be in it, but to cover everything fairly and, again, in an entertaining manner. That's really the key here, is to make something that you guys want to watch. That's not just for my haters. It's not just for my fans. It's actually for an outsider as well. Someone who's never heard of me, but you say, you know, I hear the name Darkside Phil every once in a while. I wonder about this guy. What about, you know, can I learn about him? This is the documentary you're going to watch. This hour or 2 hours, however long it ends up being, this is going to be your go-to piece of content to watch. All right? And you're going to watch it and say, okay, there you go. That's what he's about. And then you can judge for yourself. Hey, maybe you want to come by and check out my content based on the documentary. Or maybe you're zero interest and you'll never check me out. And that's okay too, right? But at the very least, this is really, it seems to me, okay, that this is the only chance that I really have to have a neutral party be involved in making something that actually is fair. That Sidescrollers interview was a complete attempt at getting me to look bad and getting me to confess to shit I didn't do. There was no point to doing it, but I didn't know that at the time. I was promised all these things, and it was all lies, all bullshit, right? The whole thing was basically a front for them to propel themselves to popularity, which, yeah, that really worked. But still, you get it? Like, something like this is different. And that's what I mean, like, what you guys don't understand, because I know some people are reacting negatively to it, and fair enough, and I understand why. Here's why. I've never gotten a fair shake before. Never. You're right. Every single person has screwed me over. Whoever tried to do something, right? So, that's the point. Now, here's the thing. Does this mean that there's no one going to be involved negatively? Of course not. They're going to be in there. Everyone's going to be in this thing. I mean it. Everyone who's you know, is going to be in this damn thing. It's going to be entertaining for that very reason. But here's the thing. I get to respond to all the bullshit, right? When you get one of these talking head idiots on there saying something about me, I get to talk back. It's not just them yelling at their audience and their audience saying, hey, yeah. Instead, I actually finally get to respond to their bullshit, you see? And that's the point, is that this is my format to finally do it. I can respond to them, but if I respond to them here, no one hears it. If I respond to them in the documentary, now that same audience that just heard the toxicity gets to hear my response to it, you see? And again, I want you to understand something. This is not going to be ultra serious at all times. This is going to be fun. It's going to be a project that is going to have a lot of content in it, the kind of which you've not seen from me, okay? It's not just going to be me sitting here on my chair doing games and talking to you. What's the point? If literally the whole documentary was a bunch of shit about me and me just sitting here saying, well, here's the truth about that, here's the truth about that, that's boring. No one cares about that, right? So, that's going to be the difference here, all right? And my goal is that when this thing comes out, okay, when this thing comes out, I want it to be the final go-to source for people to learn about me and my story, and that's that. Because I don't want to hear any more bullshit from these people. Not to say that they're not going to continue, because they will. It will always continue. We know this, that these people are so desperate for content. When you have no talent, you have to milk others for content, correct? Because you have nothing to make for yourself, so you have to milk the world around you for content in a toxic way. They're never going to go away. But at the very least, once this story is out, it's done for me, and I can actually move on positively and say, you want answers about anything of my past or anything, go watch the Mike Clum documentary and leave me alone, because I'm moving forward with my audience here, right? Will anything positive come out of it? I don't know. We'll see. But the thing is, there's so much toxicity and negativity about me on the internet, I don't think it could hurt, right? Really, honestly, you guys are not going anywhere. You guys are here every day. You understand me and who I am and the content I put out. My core audience is going to be with me no matter what. You know the truth. I've already told the stories, right? You're going to get, even you guys are going to get some good stuff out of this documentary. Trust me, there's going to be funny scenes. There's going to be information you've never heard before. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be interesting stuff, all right? And again, I totally understand, because there's people in the chat right now who are like, I don't trust it. I think it's, you know, I hear you. I understand, because we have, again, we as a community, and I've said this before, it's not just about me. It's about us, right? Everything that I do has an impact on everyone around me, and I know that. So when I did that Sidescrollers interview, it wasn't just a shitty situation for me. It was a shitty situation for the community for like 2-3 months, right? And I hear you on that. This is very different from everything that I'm involved with. It's professional, right? I've got, you know, there's agreements in place. You know what I mean? Like, this is on the up and up, going to be something that's going to be fun and fair. I'm not saying is this, by the way, by no means whatsoever is this kind of a kiss my ass thing either. I want you to understand that. That's not the point. It's not supposed to be a documentary where Phil just looks good constantly. I'm a flawed human. I've made many mistakes over the years, you know, being a YouTuber way before then as well, and I've fessed up to them. The thing is, no one hears that. No one hears that Phil admitted he did something wrong. Instead, it's just, he's this pig-headed guy who says that he's the best guy ever, right? That's not the case, but no one hears the truth. You understand what I'm saying? So, I don't think you need to worry as much as you do, especially because, as I've said, I'm in a situation here where it's very different from everything else. It's not, oh, it's just an interview, it's just this or that. This is a situation where it's going to be done in a very professional way, all right? And it's going to actually give my side. It's going to give exclusive information and stuff that you haven't heard. It's going to be very different. Let's put it that way, all right? And by the way, because I know some people are really worried about this, it's something that's not happening right away. This is something that is going to take months and months to put together. Something of this scale and magnitude. You know, this is basically kind of a Netflix level hour-long documentary about me, and it's going to take a lot of time. There's going to be filming. There's going to be all kinds of things that's going to happen. So to be transparent with all of you, yes, this is going to affect me this year. There's going to be filming around here. There's going to be filming in studios. You know what I say? It's going to be a high-level thing. This is not fucking around and just doing a few video clips edited together like all the other documentaries about me. This is actually a real product. You understand? So coming up, and I don't have all the information yet. I will let you know. Okay. Basically, this is going to be a situation where I have to take a little bit of time away from streaming. Some of my streams will be affected. Obviously, they're going to want to film me at work to see me at what I'm doing to put that into the documentary, right? There's going to be a few days where I'm not going to be able to stream because I'm going to have to go film a bunch of stuff, right, in a studio or other places or whatever. So when I know all about that stuff, all right, I'm going to let you guys know what's going on. So you'll know, okay, this week, guys, 2 days I'm not going to be here on stream because I'm going to be off filming. And then I'll be back, right? And also, I would just want to let you guys know, I can't be spoiling this thing constantly because people are going to constantly be bombarding me with questions. So what's going to be in it? And what's going to be this? And what's going to be that? And what, you know what I mean? You can't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't be spoiling the whole dang thing. I know a lot of people want that. I'm not going to spoil the whole, what's the point of it if I tell you everything we're doing in it, right? So if from time to time, as I'm working on it over the course of 2024, there's some stuff that I want to share with you. Maybe there's a behind the scenes clip or video that I want to share, or a picture or something to show you, hey, we're working together and here's, you know, you know what I'm saying? Then we should absolutely do that to share, but it's not going to be spoiling the entirety of the whole thing. There's a ton of things in here you're not going to hear about at all till it comes out. It's going to be 100% under wraps, exciting stuff you're only going to see in this documentary. Again, the whole point is to get everyone who wants to learn about me to watch this thing. I think it's going to be fascinating to see my story and then to see how people have reacted to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at all these people on the internet who crap on Phil, right? But for what? right? It's fascinating. And also, one of the things that I want to get out of it, I can't wait to hear how people, I want to hear people's take on like what they think I do wrong and how I can actually improve. Because that's the funny part, is everyone always wants to constantly crap on you, but no one actually wants to help you. You know what I'm saying? You're doing everything wrong. Okay, so what should I be doing that would be right? Be just like you? Maybe I don't want to be you, right? Not everyone wants to be exactly the same. So there's going to be a lot of interesting things out of this, right? There is, absolutely. So basically, there's going to be tons of different stuff in this thing. Tons, all right? And as I said, I'll let you know when I have more information, okay? I don't have all the information right now. You know, we have to, basically have to get to the point where things are hashed out dates-wise, so I can tell you. I can tell you right now, it won't even be soon. Like, it'll probably, at the earliest, a couple of months before we even start work on this thing when it comes to, like, filming and in-person stuff. So it's not like, oh, well, you just gave us a schedule for the month and now everything's different. No, no, no. This is not gonna, this probably won't even be until, you know, maybe some work in March, April, and then probably some more. And from what I'm gonna understand time frame wise, this is something that's gonna come out much later in the year. This is not something that's, again, this is a professional level thing. This is not something rushed out in a month and it's just edited clips. That's not the intention, okay? So this is a big endeavor. You know, I told you guys I have a lot of things in process for 2024. DSP Throwback is one of them, and that's the one that's coming the soonest. This documentary about me is another one, and that's coming later, much later in the year. Like I would, you know, maybe summer, maybe fall. I don't know. It depends on a lot of factors. You know, there's a lot of stuff involved, you know, schedule-wise and everything. So we'll have to see. But just so you know, it's coming. And when more stuff is available to talk about, specifics and stuff that we're ready to talk about, I'm sure Mike and I will tell everybody, okay? So you can ask me questions, but chances are I'm not going to answer a lot of these questions until specifics are hashed out and we're ready to talk about it. Because I feel like a lot of the times people want to just get everything in early. I'm not going to tell you everything early, right? But just to make this perfectly clear, this is not the Boogie documentary at all. This is not the intention of the Boogie documentary. That whole documentary had a different vibe and a different take to it, and that's where basically Boogie and Mike wanted to go with that. And this is completely different. I made it very clear up front. I'm not Boogie. I'm not some sad story where we're going to be talking about how awful my fucking life is and everything. I don't want a sob story documentary. There's no sob story. My life is good. I have a good life every day. I have a great time with my audience. We all have a bunch of fun, you know. All the idiots outside of my streams are the ones who are miserable, have to talk shit all day, not me. I have a great time with my life. So, there's, you know what I'm saying? There's nothing in this that's going to be, oh my God. Not to say that we're not going to touch upon serious stuff from my past. You guys know about my history. You know about all the problems and trials and tribulations I've been through, business-wise and personal. You know, I've told you all these stories before, but again, this is going to be the focused place where I talk about it, right? All at once. And if you want to know anything about Dark Side Phil, this is where you go for it. And as I said, my intention is that this is it. Once this is done, 'cause this is a lot of time and effort and work going into this thing. This is going to be time away from my work, time away from streams for you guys. Once this is done, that is that. You know what I'm saying? That is that. It's done. It's, you know, I'm not doing another one of these damn things. Unless, like, aliens land and I have a story of how I won when I fought the aliens or something. You know what I mean? Like something wild. This is my story to be told. And after this, I just want to continue to do what I love for a living and not have to bother with this shit anymore. You know? But I feel like this is my fair chance to have a fun, informative, interesting documentary be made about me, rather than it just be hit piece, hit piece, hit piece, hit piece, or even worse than that. You want to know what's worse than a hit piece? Because here's the thing. With a hit piece, all right, you can tell when it's a hit piece, right? When you watch someone who really doesn't like someone and they're making negative content, you can tell this is a hit piece, and you're not going to have normal people watch a hit piece. The only people who watch that stuff are people who actually don't like the person already, and they just kind of want to laugh at piling on, right? There's tons of people out there who don't like me. Their entire existence on the internet is anti-Phil. What's worse than a hit piece is someone who presents themselves as if they're a neutral party and doing it fairly, but literally all they do is regurgitate the conspiracy and toxicity that the hit piece people did. But they'll, oh, you see, well, this is what everyone says about them. Yeah, but all you did was regurgitate the bad. Did you actually say anything good? Did you talk to a single person about good stuff about me? Or did you only just literally regurgitate the same boring shit that everyone said for the last 10 years? So why'd you even make your fucking video besides circle jerking yourselves into those communities for more milking of money? Because the funny part is they say lol cows, right? But the thing is, when as much as they say they're milking someone for content, you want to know who they're really milking? The detractors. Every moment that one of those people make one of those documentaries, all they're doing is milking the detractors for their views and money. Because my fans don't care. I don't care. I don't even watch it. It's them that they're milking, not me. Yeah, sure, it's about me, but you literally didn't even say anything new. All you did was regurgitate the toxic shit, and you milk them for money and views, not me. It doesn't come from me. You know what I'm saying? So in this case, yes, this documentary will absolutely address some of the conspiracies and toxic things that are said about me. 100% those will be addressed. But at the same time, there's going to be the more fair human aspect to it, addressing me as a person, my history, what I stand for, what kind of content I put out today versus what everyone claims I put out 15 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to be very, very different, all right? So, like I said, I will have way more information about this as it develops. Right now, it's too early to give you any specifics, nor would I really want to give you specifics, because that would give away too much, you know? And I'm going to have meetings with Mike where we're going to plan and discuss things, and then we're going to have filming sessions and stuff, and I'm going to keep you all in the loop on that so you know what to expect with all of that, because I want you to know when I'm going to be here, when I'm not going to be here, you know, what's going on, okay? And like I said, there will absolutely be stuff that will likely be shared with you over the course of the year, whether it's I could put out an exclusive clip on the channel as a preview of something that will be in this project, and to get you guys hyped up for it. Because again, it's not just for people who don't like me, it's not just for people who like me, this is for everyone. This is supposed to be a video you can watch and you will learn all kinds of stuff about me if you just heard the name Dark Side Phil. Maybe you only saw one clip of me ever and you want to hear my story. That's what the point of this documentary is, you see? So there you go. So now the beans have been spilled to the point where at least you have a general understanding of what this is going to be. All right? And again, the funny part about this is when people say stuff like, well, you know, I think that Mike is going to try to screw you. How? Like, why would he do that? Because if he does, who else would ever work with this guy ever again? Right? If Mike becomes known as the guy who screws people when he makes a documentary about them, well, who would ever want to work with Mike ever again? Do you think he's doing it for a one-off video and he's running and never making content ever again? That doesn't make any sense. He wants to make good content that everyone's happy, right? That's the point. So there you go. Okay? All right, so anyway, that's that. Now, I have a few quick shout-outs to do. We're going to get through those, and I'm sure you guys are going to probably have questions, and I'll field your questions for as much as I possibly can. But again, all right, basically, what I want to do is answer as much quick, but I want to kind of get this out of the way. When I start playing Baldur's Gate, I want to play Baldur's Gate. When I play Sea of Stars, I want to play Sea of Stars. That's the whole point of us doing this podcast, was to talk about this now, and go from there, okay? And by the way, Abdullah says, I'll call this out now, trying to prove anything to people is a waste of time. It's better to move on with your life. You're right. Again, I'm telling you, that's not the point. This is not Phil's debunkery and for an hour. That's not the point of this documentary. It's a real documentary. See, here's the thing. You guys are completely misunderstanding because you have only seen toxic shit about me on the internet. That's the difference here. When you hear, oh, it's a documentary about Phil, and you turn it on, the whole thing's negative stuff about me for 2 hours. Oh, well, you know, all right. So is this documentary going to be Phil just responds to that for 2 hours? No. No. It's real. This is a real documentary, and this is, again, what people don't get, because you haven't seen a real thing about me yet. You literally haven't seen one. I would say the closest one that came to this was the Frederick Knudsen documentary from many, many years ago. But that got a lot wrong, had limited information, right? It was, and by the way, it's incredibly outdated at this point, you see? So there you go. I agree with Abdullah. If this entire thing was 2 hours of me directly responding to people shitting on me and just saying, oh, that's wrong, there's no point. You're absolutely right. Then there would be no point to doing it. Zero. But that's not what this is going to be. I'll tell you that right now. Okay? Okay.